Hey guys, Megan here, a faithful fibromyalgia warrior. Thanks so much for coming back to my channel. I'm so glad you're here. All of you who have recently joined and subscribed, I am so glad to have your support. Thank you so much for coming to this channel and joining. It means everything to me, and I really appreciate it. You know, I'm trying to think of what I wanted to call this video. I'm just sitting in my kitchen here. I should say it's Monday. It's December the 19th. It is 3:20 in the afternoon here in Colchester, England, but it's already getting dark out. It feels like it should be 6 o'clock, which is crazy. But, you know, I thought maybe I can talk about beware of the temptations. You know, it's almost Christmas. We all know it's sometimes really hard to say no to those favorite holiday goodies, whether it's like sides, for example, Yorkshire puddings or mashed potatoes or stuffing or pigs in blanket or even cranberry sauce, which is full of sugar. Some of our favorite food memories of Christmases past. That's hard to sometimes separate the food from the emotions of that person, of being with that person, right? But I realized I think everybody already knows about this. I mean, I don't know that I'm sharing anything new as far as be careful, be aware, be wary of the temptations to eat the cakes and the cookies and the pudding and, you know, panettone and pumpkin pie or apple pie, whatever you do or whatever your family does for food, for desserts. We already know that. And all I can say is that ultimately, whatever you decide to eat or not eat, that's your choice. And there's no judgment from me, like, at all. I would suggest that you avoid all that stuff because if you've already started to eat what I like to call the Genesis diet, basically all it means is we're eating the way God intended, which was we're eating mostly animals, mostly four-legged, hopefully ruminant, so beef, lamb, mainly. Hopefully that we're eating mostly that, although we could be including poultry as well, and their eggs, as well as pork, for those of us who can tolerate it. You might also be including full-fat dairy, like cream in your coffee, or butter, whether you are eating little bits of it to snack on, whether you are cooking with it or topping it on top of things. Not mashed potatoes, by the way, right? So that was the plan. To eat his intention was we should eat very limited amounts of full-fat dairy, but because they are an animal product, and if you read through the book of Genesis through the chapter 1 and then again in chapter 9, it is clear that God put the animals on this earth to feed us, and that the grasses and the seeds essentially he created to feed the animals that would then become fatty meat to feed us. So why should we? Right? That might be a question. Why should I? Hey, if you've already decided you've been eating like this for a while, but you've decided that the temptation to not have shortbread or mince pies or whatever it is far too great, and you are going to just forget eating this way for the holidays, that again, that's your call. And if you do decide to do that, then I hope that when the holidays are over, you'll decide to come back to eating the way God intended. You can always come back to it, okay? Long as you have breath in your life and you can eat as you choose, you know, like you're in control of what you put in your mouth, then you can choose to come back to it. I don't recommend going off of it personally, and that's me. But for people who decide they want to, okay. As in, I'm not going to judge. You do you. I would suspect that you will feel horrible if you start to eat once again the carby, sugary, processed garbage that got you fat and or sick, or fat and sick in the first place, right? And but again, when we are tempted with things like delicious, savory, sweet, finding that bliss point food products, it's very hard to say no. I mean, scientists have shown, I think these were from studies done in the States, but they have proven that sugar is more addictive than heroin and cocaine combined. And all of us are aware of, either through experience or knowing somebody who's been through it, or just because of what's been in the news, we all know how addictive heroin and cocaine is, and sugar's even more addictive. So, I get it. It's not easy to say, I'm not going to have anything sweet. I'm not going to have anything in pastry. I'm not going to have any carbs, nothing processed for the Christmas holidays. And if you are seeing friends or family and that's how they eat, it is very hard to say to them, no, thank you, I don't want any. Okay, because the reality is if they are, some of them may be absolutely fine and supportive, and I've got friends like that, but there are those who will trying to push this stuff on you. Why? Because it's clear that they feel less guilty eating what they know is probably not good for them if they get other people to eat it as well, right? That's why, it's suggested that if you say have a problem with alcohol or drug addiction, that you just avoid the friends that you partake of those addictive things with. Why? Because if they aren't trying to stop as well, they are going to want to pressure you to come back to drinking or taking drugs again, smoking if it's a nicotine addiction. Let's go shopping online if somebody has a spending addiction, right? Why? Because they don't feel as guilty if you're doing it with them, which unfortunately that is our human nature, sadly. So I didn't actually mean to talk about, be aware of the temptations of food or people around you who might pressure you to eat the stuff you don't want, because that way they don't feel guilty. I kind of talked about it, but really I wanted to talk just briefly about why I eat and follow a Genesis diet. Why I eat essentially animal products. So I will eat skeletal meat, and that comes with fat, so fatty meat. Primarily it comes from beef. I will have lamb sometimes. Usually I have minced beef, 20% fat, and I'll fry that up in the pan with a couple of egg yolks and a few pieces of bacon, and kind of mix it all together. And that might be breakfast and or lunch. I don't often eat 3 times a day. Sometimes, depends if I'm hungry or not, right? That's the other thing, is of course, as everyone probably knows, and I do not mean to seem condescending in any way, but what people probably also already know, but in case you don't, is if you're not hungry, don't eat, right? We're trained to eat at certain times of the day because that's just the way we were trained, because that's how our parents were trained and their parents and so on and so forth. But if 12 o'clock noon comes around and you're not hungry, don't eat. If you are feeling ravenous at 3, then eat, right? I would say still try to avoid eating late at night, because what it means is your body at the time when you might be sleeping is busy trying to digest the food that had been eaten, right, that day. So it throws off your circadian rhythm. But beyond that, eat when you're hungry. And when you feel satisfied, if you can stop for a moment, and I'm still learning this, but what I'm figuring out is if I eat slowly and I put my fork down every now and then, and my husband and I will have, talk about whatever, and then I'll go back and eat, and I save water or any beverage until after I've eaten, because water can actually fill you up, right? And it'll throw off your hunger signals. So I make sure that I'm actually, truly feeling satiated. Like, you know what? Nah, I don't want any more. And I'll either save what I have. I might give some of the beef to the dogs, but for me, that was important because I'm 50, right? Grew up through the 70s and 80s. And so it was very much a time when all these food pyramids and guides were first coming out. And I remember my mom always saying, and my dad, you got to eat everything on your plate. Everything, which is nuts. And, we were, of course, because we had to be at school for a certain time, parents worked until a certain time. So you knew, and everybody had to get lunch at a certain time. And of course, you couldn't eat in class. You couldn't eat just when you were hungry or stop when you were satiated. You knew you had to eat at 7:30 or 8 in the morning. You may not have been hungry, but then you had to get to school, right? And lunchtime was from 12 to 1. And whether you were hungry or not, that was your lunch break. That was the only chance you had to eat something. And everybody was usually home from school and done with work by between 5 and 6. So you ate by 6:30. And that's just how it was, even if you weren't hungry. And that wasn't just me, that was all my friends. That's probably how your parents were as well. And perhaps if you're a parent, that's probably how you were with your kids. And it makes sense to a degree because, if you've got to get your kids to school by a certain time, well, you don't want to send them to school in an empty stomach, right? Although, of course, now learning that, in fact, it would have been, not that I would have ever done it, but they would have been better off having nothing to eat until lunchtime, but having hot lunches or sandwiches or whatever they brought that day, instead of filling them with cold cereal, because all that did is spike their blood sugar and then it would crash, and that would, affect their ability to focus at school. I did not know this at the time, but, hindsight is 2020. But yeah, so I guess, sorry, I got off on a bit of a tangent. The reason why I am planning to keep on following this Genesis diet, this way of eating that God intended for us as humans, is because I do not want to feel the chronic pain and the inflammation and the agony that comes from me eating anything sweet. So as you can see, I'm actually standing at the moment, just letting one of the dogs out. So why do I want to avoid the temptation, or why do I want to avoid going off plan, if you will? The reason is simple for me, because I've had so much healing by eating this way, by eating and following the Genesis diet. I'm pretty sure I didn't invent that. I'm pretty sure someone else has come up with that term, but I like it. It's not simply keto or ketovore or carnivore or low carb or zero carb. I see it as something even beyond that, in that this is the way God intends for us to eat for optimal health. Our bodies are meant to be taken care of, treated as the temples they are. If we are lucky enough to be Christians and have the Holy Spirit dwelling in our hearts and within us and helping guide us, then I personally want to show honor and respect to that by taking care of my body, treating it as a temple that houses the Holy Spirit. And for me, I cannot do that eating anything processed, sugary, or full of carbs. I can't, because I can't have just one item and stop. If I have one thing, as you guys will have heard about if you saw the video I did where I talked about going on a bit of a cookie binge a couple weeks ago, the thing is I can't stop at one. If I could stop at one thing, sorry, that's just the greyhound letting himself into the house again. If I could stop at having only one thing, then I wouldn't have needed to switch up my diet probably in the first place. But the truth is, I did. And I imagine that most of you, if not all of you, if you're watching this, if you have come to this channel, it's because you probably did too, to some extent. Maybe you don't have a sugar addiction. Perhaps you have a hard time with carbs. Maybe you find you react badly to processed food products, or maybe all of the above. Perhaps you, like I, have been struggling with or have struggled in the past with restrictive eating, with an eating disorder, whether it's full out anorexia or bulimia or somewhere in between. But what I've learned is that eating these foods that are full of carbs and sugar and processed crap make everything worse. And for me, I've had so much healing. I have, since I started eating this way back in June of 2020, I'm down 85 pounds from my heaviest weight. And I'm talking even when I was pregnant with my sons some 20 odd years ago, I still didn't put on that much weight. So I'm sharing this just to give you an idea so you guys can get a sense of where I'm at. Okay, so I'm 50, I'm 5'5", and I'm 120 pounds. Sorry, I don't know what that is. I think that's something like 53 kilograms, 8 stone something. I'm not quite sure about the conversion on that, but I live in the UK, grew up in Canada, of course. So getting used to imperial and metric, and yet I can only think in weight in pounds, which is, I don't know, that's just weird. Anyhow, you know, I'll give you an example. Well, there's a few. My brain fog used to be so bad, I couldn't remember conversations that happened 5 minutes previous. I couldn't connect with God. I did not have the wherewithal to take more than a few seconds just to thank him. I certainly couldn't spend the time I do now, praying and meditating and reading through the Bible and really growing in my knowledge of the word and just feeling peace and joy. I couldn't. I was so inflamed. I was way overweight. I had chronic pain that wouldn't go away. My medication felt like it wasn't doing anything. And I was struggling. I was still restrictive eating. I was binging and purging in various ways, and I was unhappy. I was miserable. But until I started to change what I ate, none of that could have been any different. You know, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe everything happens for a reason. So I didn't just happen to look up ketogenic protocol or look into what it means to be low carb or carnivore. I didn't just happen to find the videos. I believe that God was guiding me to that. And it was the first thing that actually helped me. I am a very long history of yo-yo dieting, bulimic for 30 years. And those struggles and those negative thoughts were constantly perpetuating in my brain. Even if I had hypothyroidism, so an underactive thyroid, even though I knew that was the case, I was still feeling ugly, unloved, unwanted, fat, disgusting, all of those negative thoughts in my brain that Satan likes to whisper. And I would imagine I'm not the only one, right? And we get so used to believing the lies that even if we start to change, we can still easily be tempted to fall back into those patterns. So even though I've lost the weight, even though my brain fog has almost completely cleared up, which is amazing, amazing. The greatest example I have 2 years and a bit on is when we went to our Sunday service, our Christmas carol service yesterday with our church. Now, I did get pushed in my wheelchair to get into the building, and I did sit in the chair throughout the service itself. But at the end of the service, and I had my crutch with me, I actually felt like I wanted to get up and stand and walk a little bit and talk with people. And you know what? 2 years ago, when all these other things were going on with me, with being fat, being sick and inflamed and just mentally unhealthy and everything else, it never could have happened. Now, technically speaking, we were in the middle of COVID, so we wouldn't have been meeting all together at church anyways. But just saying, theoretically speaking, I wouldn't have done that. And even a month ago, I hardly would get out of my chair. Now, I still feel stiff and sore every single day, but I find that my pain medication is now helping to manage my symptoms. And when I eat the meats that God created for us to eat, when I eat beef or lamb, and sometimes pork, don't usually eat poultry just because I find it pretty dry, but when I eat those other three things, whether it's, okay, let me rephrase, I don't eat the meat of the bird, but I eat the eggs of the bird. So if I'm eating eggs and ground fatty beef, and I'm eating my bacon and putting a bit of salt to taste, and sometimes I'll have lamb, I might have a bit of ribeye, I feel amazing. I feel energized. And I knew that this way of eating was the right way to eat because a couple of the women who have come to know me over the last year, since we were, meeting in person again at church, and one of the women I had happened to be just walking past her a couple rows with my crutch, and she looked at me and she said, "Oh my goodness, you're not in your chair. I mean, you look fantastic. You look so healthy and energized and bright, and it does me good to see that you're able to get up and not have to be in your chair all the time." And I explained, hey, you know what? I still have fibromyalgia. I still have chronic pain. I still have to be careful because if I overdo it, I will feel it later. But in this moment, it was one of those good moments where I felt like, you know what? I have the energy to get up and talk to people. And so the thing that helped me as well, because there was a whole bunch of like cakes and cookies and desserts and little lunch snacky bites that were served after the service was done. And what helped me so much was that there was such a massive queue of people ahead of me. I just was like, I can't be asked. I'm not even tempted. There's too many people that I have to wait for. So I will go to the table that's practically empty and get a nice cup of black coffee. And I will wait because I'm really not that hungry. And I will have something to eat when I get home. And so for me, seeing how eating this way, I feel better. But the fact that other people can even notice that I look better and I seem to be feeling better, like, wow, what a testament that is. What a testament, right? Truly, what an amazing thing. And it's all I'm doing is eating the way God described in the Bible, which is the animals, be they wild or domesticated. Anything that flew, that swam, that crawled, that walked is edible. And we're supposed to eat. They were created for that reason. The grasses and seeds, they were grown to feed those animals. And so for me, I find it a little easier to say no to the temptations of Christmas, like all the junky food and stuff, because I don't want to ruin how great I feel. I mean, I'm feeling so much better than I did before I started to eat this way. It's been, almost 8 years since my fibromyalgia flared up, constantly there. And it still is, and I still have aches. Like right now, I'm still feeling twinges, but they're twinges. And they just become part of, that's just a twinge. You get used to it, right? Those of you who live with fibromyalgia, you know what I'm talking about. there's a point where you kind of go, it's there. You try to get on with life because what else are you going to do? So it's just there. And some days are better than others. Some moments are better than others. Sometimes, after sitting for such a long time for service, I find that I'm exhausted. I need to get back and sleep. Or I'm too sore to stand up and walk a bit. But I'm thankful that yesterday I felt up to doing that. I got to talk to people who normally I think would see me in the chair and figure, oh, we're just bothering her. We'll just move along. I actually got to get up and talk to some people I didn't know that well. And it was fantastic. So for me, that right there makes it really easy to say no to the Christmas treats. That does not mean I will not be tempted. I guarantee you I'm going to face that temptation every single day between now and Christmas and carrying on, because there's always a holiday, there's always a celebration, there's always a reason or an excuse to eat processed crap, right? Now, anybody who decides that they are going to risk it and they want to eat it anyways, like I said, that's totally your choice. And I don't get a say in what you eat, just like nobody gets a say in what I eat. But for me, what has really helped, and I mean dramatically helped. So I went from like 195 pounds to, no, couldn't have been, I must have been just over 200 at one point, because I'm 120 now. Yeah, just over 200 pounds. I lost. Now, my weight's fluctuated a little bit in the beginning, but now it's been stable around somewhere between 115 and 120, depending on the time of the month and the time of the day, depending on what my hormones are doing. But having said that, I feel amazing. It doesn't mean I don't feel pain. It doesn't mean it's not there. It doesn't mean I don't have to make a decision every day that I will stay in recovery from bulimia, that I will fight through and find joy and gratitude in spite of my anxiety and in spite of my depression, because I do that. However, I'm hoping that you guys will be able to see that, you know what? There is hope. Doesn't mean it all goes away. In fact, everything might be exactly the same as before you started to eat like this. I mean, emotionally and so on. You will probably have the same challenges, the same boss you don't like, or the same problems with your family, or the same argument with your partner. But the difference is your body will feel healthier. Your body will start to feel like it's being cared for as you take care of it, which is what we're supposed to do, right? I just wanted to say, listen, anybody who thinks, well, so if I eat like this and my pain doesn't go away completely, did I do it wrong? No, not at all. Some of us, our pain and our chronic conditions are so significant that we may never see them fully go away. But we should definitely see an improvement. And that's better than nothing, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm sharing this to say, listen, I completely understand the pain of fibromyalgia, the good days and the bad days. I still can't go to the gym, and I'm never going to be able to lift weights or use those machines because of my back injury. And guess what? I didn't have to. I ate the way God intended, and He took care of me, helped my body function the way He intended it to function, where I flushed out all the crap, and now I'm nourishing my muscles and my organs and my bones and my joints the way I'm supposed to. And hopefully that's what's going to help you as well. So listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, yeah, you will be completely cured of depression and anxiety and your mental health issues, and it'll all go away, and you'll never have any pain again. You'll never struggle with your eating disorders. I'm not going to say that. Some people, that might be the case. Perhaps if their symptoms were milder, or, or they didn't have as many of them. Of course, there are those out there who have said following this way of eating has completely reversed certain symptoms. I don't doubt it. But it doesn't mean it's going to happen for everybody. So if you still need to take your antidepressants, and if you still need to take medication for your thyroid or lithium because you're bipolar, keep doing that. It does not mean that this way of eating hasn't helped, and it doesn't mean you've done it wrong. It simply means that you may have, for whatever reason, God's decided this may be something that you're going to live with, because maybe you're going to help somebody else who's struggling to find help or a way to manage their symptoms better. I don't know. That's how I look at it. I was never promised that I would be pain-free, that my fibromyalgia would disappear completely. Maybe it will someday. I don't know. I doubt it, but I'm not God. Who knows? But I do know that by eating this way, I've gotten rid of so much inflammation and pain and weight loss and brain fog that I'm actually able to spend time focusing and connecting with God, connecting with my husband and my sons, and building friendships and community, and learning how to take love from God and share it with others, and share hope with others that you don't have to stay in this. We might never be cured, but we can certainly have recovery. And I'm hoping if that's the place where you're at, that maybe this video can help you. I don't have all the answers. I know it's helped me. I just hope maybe it could help you as well. And hey, if you want to leave me a message or contact me, please do. I love hearing from you guys. It really means the world to me. Not because I have all the answers, but maybe we can help each other, right? Our relationship with God is a personal thing, but that doesn't mean we can't support each other, pray for each other, and help each other, and be encouraging where we need to be. So I hope that this video has done at least some of that for you guys. And if not for yourselves, then hopefully somebody you love and care about who might be struggling. It is okay to not always be okay. It doesn't mean that we are not, faithful. It doesn't mean we are not Christians. It means we need help and we need support so that we can be better, and the focus can be off of us and onto God or onto other people. I mean, that's the whole purpose, right? Guys, thank you so much for all your support and all your encouragement. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to have any more content before Christmas. So if not, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. And I will definitely have content before the new year. But I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.